Good morning.
Hello.
Welcome to the Shambles Stay at Home Festival. Good evening if you're in another country. Good afternoon if you're in another country from the evening country. What are you doing up at this time? If you're in another, there's a lot of time zones to deal with. Welcome to the Shambles Stay at Home Festival. I will, first of all, quick couple of things. Everyone knows, hopefully, if you've watched before, about the tip jar at the bottom of this page. We've done now, I think by the end of this week, it's going to be approaching 80 shows during lockdown. We've had an enormous number of brilliant guests from Tim Minchin, Mark Gatiss, Joe Brown, Sarah Pascoe, Lem Cisse, loads, Natalie Haynes, lots and lots of brilliant people. And Robin Hitchcock last night. I had a very long conversation with Robin Hitchcock about, some people might have been tuning in thinking, I hope they're going to talk about the musical work of Robin Hitchcock. No, predominantly talked about our mutual love of books about giant killer crabs attacking the coast of Wales, the Guy Smith crab series. It was a... It's. I think in the end, especially once Robin moved on to his knowledge of the book The Slime Beast, things became elevated even further into a dark dystopian nightmare.
You could do a spin-off show called Crab Robins.
That would be a lovely idea, yeah. Because also some of the people who confuse us, obviously, with the work of Jordan Peterson, Lobster Lover, then they might be lured in. Oh, maybe. Oh, this is great. This is a men's rights activist crustacean group. No, it's not. They'll say furiously after a while. But anyway, sorry.
How are you today, Robin?
Well, I made a terrible mistake. I watched a film that I can't necessarily pronounce. The Synodoki, New York, last night. And I thought it was going to be, I know I'm 12 years late on that, but that's the way films work. You know, Casablanca came out long before I was born. I still eventually got round to seeing it. But I thought it was going to be a nice, quirky Charlie Kaufman movie. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the time to watch that, is it?
No, it's a bit, a bit long, a bit intense, a bit involved.
Yeah, it's not quirky at all, is it? I mean, it's quirky, but quirky very much in a not fun quirky, the quirky agony of being human, born, living and dying.
The very good title for your autobiography.
Quirky agony. The other thing I was going to mention is the thing we're really pushing this week is our Patreon. As I've already said, you know, we've made nearly 80 of these. We've made an enormous number of podcasts, of science stuff. We've got loads and loads of stuff out there. So please go to our Patreon, cosmicshambles.com. Go to our Patreon, support our Patreon, and then we can keep making another 80 of these and another 200 book shambles and another load of science documentaries, and also we'll be able to make more knitted pig-based puppets as well if we're very, very lucky. What is that?
This is Pig. His full name is Ernest J. Pigglesworth. You're with a baby, you embellish things. You know, you give things a rich inner life. Otherwise, you just sat with a toy.
Well, everything that anthropomorphized once you have a child, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, look, here comes Juggy, the jug of water.
Yes.
Oh, look, Juggy's being sick into Muggy, the mug. It's all sicking up the water, isn't it? Yeah, I may well have damaged my son.
Drink up the sick.
Good parenting. So is that your show and tell today?
Yeah. We've run out of interesting things. We've been doing it a lot of anything with any sort of quirky background is done. Hi, Josie. Hi.
Oh, Josie, they're forgetting that no one has an idea that Maeve has suddenly turned up, because that's not what they're seeing at home. But Maeve has turned up. So let's introduce our guests today, who are Maeve Higgins and Claudia, who stars of Extraordinary, but we'll talk about other things too.
Two of the funniest people alive on this planet, most interesting, wonderful people. So excited to see you both. Hello.
Well, we're not sure. Trent at the moment is just doing the vision mixing thing. So just in case that's going on, my show and tell, by the way, is Afterman, Zoology of the Future, which is a beautiful book. It originally came out in 1981. And then the wonderful Breakdown Press, who some of you may well know, who bring really, really wonderful books out. This was a book which was basically imagining the animals that would evolve after humanity was no longer there. So it's just these beautiful paintings by Douglas Dixon, and then with also, and he did work with scientists to kind of imagine where living creatures, where they would, what they would develop into, and there we go. There's some sorry, there, just beautiful book. And Breakdown Press are a really fantastic. I recommend all of their stuff. They always bring out quirky and weird things. So
what's
that's
good
my
about
show.
that is, if you can keep it safe enough, in a million years, you can come back and see which worked and which did not. It is beautiful. It feels so. It feels so legitimate when it's so speculative.
Yeah, that's one of the things, is you could easily in there we go there. Oh, there we are. So that was my show and tell. And go and find out more about Breakdown Press. They're a small press. A friend of mine, Tom, who you probably know, Tom, as well, who does stuff with Nat Metcalf as well, and did some of the wonderful. Yeah. Tom does incredible work with Breakdown Press in terms of books of illustrations and all manner of other things as well. So, shall we meet Claudia first?
Yes.
Hello again, Claudia. Now you are with so you're much like when we also had Tim mentioning, you're in a totally different world. You're just there. You've got a nice glass of wine. It's early evening for you, isn't it?
It's dinner time, Robin. So I'm having a beautiful glass of wine. I've drunk more alcohol than ever in my life recently.
Wow. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm very proud of myself.
So it's been a self-medication few weeks then.
What was that? Sorry?
It's been a self-medication few weeks then.
Yeah, I've fled America, where I actually do live, and I've come back to Australia. And after 2 weeks of quite intense quarantine in my teen bedroom, where I was not allowed to, communicate or interact with anyone else, I'm now out of it. And I mean, when I say it's more alcohol than I've ever drunk in my life, I barely drink alcohol, and these days I'm drinking up to 2 glasses of wine a night. I've gone wild.
I'm the same. I will have a glass of wine maybe 3 days a week now. If you can imagine.
Incredible, right? I can't believe it.
But then I have started doing a thing, which is in the evening, if I go past the fridge, if I've got a bottle of wine in the fridge, I'll just have the little tot.
You're a very ladylike bottle sipper. That's the thing. Most people, when they sip from a bottle, you think they lose their elegance. Yet I feel the way that quite often you just take the top off with your teeth, tip a little bit back in, keeping the top still in the other side of your mouth, and then still manage to put it back on. It's like watching Margaret Rutherford drinking claret.
I do that thing where I don't know how to do it, so I do it, and then it all just explodes over my face.
I want to ask you. You and Nick Coyle made a really funny web series, and I feel for some reason that it feels really pertinent now, even though it's
upsettingly true to life now. Yeah, Nick wrote this web series called Sarah's Channel, where I play a beauty vlogger who's in an apocalyptic world, and she sort of is just beauty vlogging to keep her sanity. And during my quarantine, when I was just 2 weeks with no interaction with any other people, I did experiment with contouring, and then I was like, oh my god, I'm Sarah.
It prepared you.
And generally in the world, you're this would be a very natural time to promote Sarah's Channel, but it feels too grubby, so I don't.
Well, also it's too real.
It's isn't it great that this is exactly what's happening? No.
Yes, it would be much better had you written something. Oh no, but then that would be worse. I was going to say where it's just people chilling out on a beach, but that would be too hard to watch as well.
I don't really know what is. I mean, I watched Contagion with my parents the other night. We did enjoy how close to real life it was.
But then are there bits where it's slightly different, where you're like, oh, that would never happen?
No, it's almost exactly the same. We're like, yes, bat and pig. Totally.
I've still not seen Contagion. So what? Who's in Contagion? Everyone's in Contagion. Everyone's, the two things that people saying
in Contagion. My mum's main comment was like, "Oh my god, it's her." You, Kate Winslet. Who is? I mean, just Matt Damon.
I feel like that when I watch old Miss Marples from ITV. Honestly. You watch a Miss Marple, you're like, well, there can't be any more stars in this. And then, bam, Joanna Lumley.
Wow.
Jamie Theakston, who's right there. Because at the time, his star was riding high.
Is there currently a show on UK TV that you guys could go on where you get murdered? That everyone gets to go on?
My dream. I wish the bill was still going on.
Yeah, just to pop up on the bill would be nice.
The bill was like for actors.
Yeah,
like everyone would get called up. My friend John Luke Roberts has got a very funny joke at the moment where he records me voice messages of episodes of the bill where the police are going around telling people off for being in the park too long. So I was like, excuse me, madam, what are you doing? I'm just sitting down as part of my exercise. No, you're not. You're the rules. No, I'm not. I'm doing yoga. No, you're not.
I wish that theme song of the bill was really the sound of Saturday nights for me until I was about 14, I think, maybe 16. It was on Saturday nights on the ABC in Australia, and I, for some reason, watched that and Birds of a Feather every Saturday night. What do I do when you are far away? Saturday night, baby.
There is a joke in Birds of the Feather once a month, which is somebody, one of them, played by Linda Robson, says, "There's a half-naked man in my bathroom." And Pauline Quirk says, "Top half or bottom half?"
Barely even a joke, just a question.
Can we introduce Maeve as well, Robin?
Maeve is a wonderful thing, which is Maeve is only allowed to be viewed sideways. Trent spent the last, I think, kind of 10 minutes saying, "Well, turn the phone then, and then it will go landscape. Turn the phone then, and then." But it's just not. So this is an interest. So.
Maeve, is it locked into portrait? Is it locked? I think it's locked.
No,
we're only getting it sideways. A great thing for those at home who don't realise, when you're just seeing one person on screen, we actually have every single person who's going to be appearing on the show. And I should mention, by the way, that the FGs will be on shortly as well. Dawn and Richard, who wrote the original music for the original classic music, of course, for Cosmic Shambles website, the Cosmic Shambles website, which is available on Jeff Love Plays the Music of the Podcasts from Music for Pleasure Records. But we are joined by Maeve. Hello, Maeve. How are you?
Hi. I'm fine.
Now, we should make it clear you have just woken up, haven't you?
No, I've been awake now. Like, I guess I started to get calls and things about 30 minutes ago saying, we need to, we need you on the podcast, on this, and I just felt this rush of importance, like, oh, maybe you're late for something. And, there's a media happening. So I just ran into the kitchen and my mom, I need to have coffee. I'm doing a show, really unhinged stuff, actually. And then was looking for the subway, to get to. But yeah, it's just really good, and I'd really like to talk to you every morning.
Oh my God, my dream.
Has it given you any? Because that's the thing, is you have to now, even though everything we do, like I'm traveling a lot today. I've got 7 different gigs. They are all over the shop. I've got a meeting in Kew shortly. Then I've got later on, I've got a meeting in America. So you have to try and imagine that the desk you are sat at, there is some sense of transience as well.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's just like it is in the olden days. It's all pointless. You know, you're like, I'm going to go to this meeting, and maybe I'm going to get this show, and this is going to happen with my career. But that was never real anyway. So this is just a more comfortable way of
Sorry, what?
being in show business.
Maeve, I'm going to be a star.
Josie, Hollywood's on fire.
And we should do is every time we have a Zoom meeting or anything, we should go out the door, walk around the flat or the house or the block or anything, and come back in.
Mansion. Now is the time.
That is a good idea.
Differences, really, but I would be walking around my mansion. It would take some time.
Yes, to walk around the grounds would take upwards of 47 minutes.
You want me to take in the East Wing? We haven't walked around that in a long time.
Not summer. Oh, it is summer then.
So I can tell you something actually genuinely creepy that did happen yesterday. Josie, I know you're frightened of Ireland and all its mysticism.
Sorry, I just like plain English speaking. That's what I like. I'll live in England whether I like it or not.
And you love it there.
Yes.
Sorry, Josie. But I do like being back in Ireland, but something did happen yesterday, which was my brother-in-law is like digging the foundations for their new house. And they broke ground yesterday.
Oh no.
And then a guy pulled up in a car and was like, "Hey, I see that you're excavating some ground there. Would you mind if I just buried my dog in there?" And then my brother-in-law is really, really nice, actually. And he was like, "Okay." And so the guy was like, "It's just a little Jack Russell," but it was a really big bag. And then my sister was like, I don't want the under our kitchen. Like, the very first day we break ground in a new house, the first thing that happens is a dead body under there.
Oh, it could easily be his wife.
Yeah, a real dog. That's why he had to kill her. He's going to get a pretty one next.
There is an element of poltergeist to that as well. The element of because poltergeist was it was a Native American burial ground, wasn't it? Whereas
yes,
just
it was.
a couple of puppies and a Jack Russell, that's a very kind of yappy haunting, isn't it? I can see that would really get you in the end.
But yeah, and also animal or cemetery.
Pet cemetery.
Pet cemetery, yeah.
Animal
Crossing.
Animal Crossing. Everyone's obsessed with it. I'll tell you what Animal Crossed me yesterday. It wasn't a dead Jack Russell. It was a woman.
You had that story seems to fit in very neatly with the world that you kind of created with Extraordinary, because that had such.
I commend you for bringing this back into a formal interview setting.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
For doing it with real aplomb, and I enjoyed it a lot. And may I say, I'm just thrilled to be here today. Yeah, Extraordinary. This is a film that you're both a part of that we all loved.
Yeah.
How does it? Do you see Ireland in a more spooky way now that you've been a part of it?
I think that's a question for Claudia. When she was here, making the film, she very frequently sickened in castles and was often just in like long nightgowns with cats laying on top of her. So, Claudia, did you feel like it's a more spooky place than before?
Yes, it was a very spooky experience because I did get so sick because I wore very small costumes. And we were in an unheated castle, but there were a lot of sort of feral cats. Have you seen Grey Gardens? I know you have, Josie.
Yeah.
It sort of had a Grey Gardens vibe. There were lots of cats just wandering around, and they would sit on you between scenes because you were warm. But I did still get very sick, and I felt bad because I wanted to be being a movie star, but I was kept coughing on everyone, which these days would not go down well. But at the time, everyone thought it was very charming.
I thought there was going to be an even bigger reveal than that to fit in with Extraordinary, and I did actually get very sick and I died. No, we're in Dante's circle of podcasting hell. I should have realised this all along. It's the reveal. But we should find out, because Extraordinary, for those who haven't seen it, can you tell us a little bit about, because it's just got that beautiful mix of a kind of a mundane reality, but at the same time within it is a world of ghosts and possession.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have been, oh, Maeve, it's pornographic. How could you? And I say, no, it's erotic. It's just eroticism.
Yeah, it's Irish eroticism. No,
it's tasteful.
Castle. That's why it's in a castle. It's like sort of ancient.
Mate, there is a sex scene in the film. Like, how did you feel about shooting that?
It was real sex.
I'll tell you what made me really uncomfortable about that is they made me wear like genital sheets, and there was an intimacy coordinator, and I was like, get this off me, get her out of here, I want to raw dog it.
And he did. The actor who played, her, he was so upset, but she insisted, and because she was on the top of the call sheet, they had, and he said he won't work again.
He won't work with any woman again. Anyway, he said, okay. I said, that's okay.
Yeah.
Whatever your name is, and I'll bring up our child alone.
This is great. I think now. What is lovely is that I've managed to ask a question in which since then people have found out less and less about the film. People know far less about the film than they did when this conversation started, which makes it far more enigmatic.
Horny will tune in straight away, so that's good. We're just trying to find the right audience for the movie, because if you're horny, you'll love it.
Can I say, this has become a very naughty show. We would please tell us a bit about the film, because it is such a great film.
Well, I get a lot of messages on Twitter and on Instagram being like talking about people's unlikely path to finding the film. So I've stopped really giving any credibility to, the old way of marketing, which is like we beg and plead, in cute ways, like for people to watch it. I think it has to, one person emailed or DM me and was like, I heard about this through a friend who went to a festival in Canada, and so it wasn't available here, so I bought it, but it was a German translation from Amazon. And then, they waited for many months. So I'm like, people will just find it, hopefully, or else if they don't, they're just not meant to see it. I mean, it's like a horror comedy. What can I say? It's very, very, very good.
It is very good. That is quite old-fashioned. It reminds me of when we interviewed the Go-Betweens, and they were talking about trying to find music and music magazines, and everything taking 2 months longer to get to where they were in the 70s. And the idea that you'd be like, I must see this. The only thing I can see is a German dubbed version. It'll have to do.
Yeah, I had lots of nice friends. We couldn't wait to see it, so we pirated it.
Oh yeah, it was the number one, because my brother-in-law, not the one who's doing the house, a different one, but the same name. He actually knows, he could see all the torrents and everything happening, and he was like, oh, everyone is downloading this illegally, which is a good sign for it becoming a cult favorite, but I think it's not great for the producers to earn their money back.
Sure.
But Claudia, as an anarchist, is thrilled about that.
Yeah, I don't think money. I don't think money should exist.
She's not clear about what anarchy is, but she's giving it a go.
Welcome to your utopia. We're gonna come back to you in about 5 minutes. And we'll do your show and tell as well. We're gonna now introduce our band of the day, and also mention a couple of other things. That on the 17th of May, we have the gig that was going to be at the Albert Albert Hall, but is now in a series of people's front rooms, which is something of a change. And we have got, that is the Shambles show, where we have Liz Bonin and Natalie Haynes and Rufus Hound and Reece Shearsmith and Grace Petrie and British Sea Power and Lem Cisse and Brian Cox and various. So that's on the 17th of May at, was going to be the Albert Hall, but is going to be in various different rooms like this instead. And also mention the not the tip jar, but it's not. I've just been told that it's. I've got a message which I can't read from Trent. I get those all the time.
Shoulders is going to be there too.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, Kobe Smulders from, amongst other things, Avengers movies. And also tonight at 8:30. Thank you very much, by the way. That was exactly the kind of work I'd expect from someone who has been the great mind behind a piece of cinema. And off menu tonight is James Acaster, Ed Gamble and Rushing Connerty, and that is on at 8:30 this evening.
That'd be fantastic.
So now it is our musical guests I mentioned before. They are the FGs, Dawn and Richard, and they have written music for many, many different things, including lots of our projects. So here they are. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the FGs.
Normal.
Hello, welcome back. And that was the FGs, Dawn and Richard, and you can find their work as well on Bandcamp. I don't know if you should wait as long as Bandcamp Friday, because I think that's going to be. I think that's only going to be once a month. But go and find their work on Bandcamp, because they're fantastic. And there's also a really good band called the Rifles. Do you know the Rifles, Josie?
I have heard of them, but I don't think I've heard them recently.
They've got a lovely lockdown song. That was one of the things that I got on Bandcamp Friday. Did you get anything on Bandcamp Friday?
Yes, I did. I got the new song by Benin City, Joshua, who we spoke to.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's still available. You should go for it. Maybe not wait till, I don't know, buy it twice.
Yeah, why not?
It is very exciting to see bands responding to this situation, because I feel like songs are the best sort of art that I want now. It feels like you can all sit with a song and help feel together, whereas like I don't want like comedy shows. Everyone get off now.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend John Mouse as well, if you don't know Book of John Mouse. That is very good for this period of time. It is kind of upbeat and strange, and it's similar. If anyone knows the stuff that Malcolm Middleton and David Shrigley did together, their Words and Music album, it's a little bit like that. We better move on to show and tells because we don't have that long on today's show. So, Claudia, you have a show and tell.
Yes, the reveal is I've been wearing my show and tell the whole time.
Hey.
So kind of a slow creep of a show and tell. I just got this. This is a jumper. The design is actually by my dad, and can you read the back? I can't tell how I'm.
Sweet.
Sweater enthusiast for climate action.
Oh my god.
And as you'll see, there's a fish on one sleeve. Quite good, quite cool. And over here, there's a koala. So it's one of his pictures from recently, but it is all the money from these jumpers goes to bushfire charities and also climate change charities. And that's why and that's everyone should get one. It's by this really good designer, Wawa Australia. You can look at her Instagram, but she's been making really cool jumpers out of like cool bands and artists like art recently, and it's a very nice merino wool good jumper.
It feels weird again that you're the last part of autumn going into winter as well.
Yeah,
the idea
it's getting chilly.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, that's a lie. It's
Can
not.
I just say though, as an Australian who spent a lot of time in the United Kingdom, it still gets cold at night in the summer in England. Sorry, but it does. So a jumper is the perfect thing to get. Look how cool.
That is one of my first. What happened was people forgot to say, have you got a show and tell? And so we mentioned that at 1 minute to 10 and you went, well, I'm wearing this jumper. That was brilliant. Yeah. That was even better than when someone's just gone, well, my cat's on this chair, which has happened in the past. That one's been the most immediate show and tell yet.
And also a really cool, interesting thing as well.
Yeah.
So, pretty good. Better than Ernest J. Pigglesworth. Maeve, have you got anything you'd like to show us? It's not the kind of show.
Yeah. Do you know this book, Seabiscuit?
No, but I know the film.
Yeah, so it's actually like one of the best books of nonfiction that I've ever read. And the reason I haven't seen the film, but I actually read an article about the journalist who wrote it, Laura Hillenbrand. And the interesting thing about her is she suffers from, that pain, like it's like kind of like fibromyalgia where your whole body's in pain all the time.
God.
And she's had that for 20 years. So she writes like literally from her bed. Wow. And so, but this book makes you feel like in the way that nonfiction does, you get so immersed in it that you're like, hang on, I'm in 1932. Like it's incredible. And I actually, before I read this, I was reading about how she works and how she does it just from her bedroom, like a lot of writers have to do now. And what she used to do was, she was writing about Depression era America, and most people had died by then, like most of the major players in her story. But so she used to order like the local newspapers of the day from eBay, and then she'd just like sit down and drink coffee and read the newspapers of the day. So I think that's how she got this sort of quality that she seemed to have actually been there.
And she also developed very strong opinions on that political situation as a result. Became partisan.
She did.
She brought us up a 1930s car, a 1930s vacuum cleaner.
Her entire language changed. Water. But you know what the coolest detail is that I found out about Seabiscuit? So like lots of people know about him. He was an incredibly famous racehorse and one of the most popular
was he very big? Or am I thinking of Secretariat?
He wasn't actually that big. Did you say big?
Yeah.
No, he actually was a bit like scrawny. Like he was the right weight for a racehorse.
Sounds like me.
He was a little bit Claudia, I mean scrawny. Oh God. Show us your little bent knees, your little knock knees. He had one funny front leg and that was why a lot of people wrote him off when he was a colt.
Oh.
But it also meant that he could lie down and sleep, which horses do not do. They can lie down for maybe like 3 minutes at a time, but he would lie down for hours and just be sleeping and sleeping and sleeping. So everyone was like, yeah, his dad was a famous racehorse, but this guy's got a weird leg and all he does is sleep all day.
I love it.
This trainer saw him, this like basically horse psychic, saw him and was like, I can make this colt run like the wind. Yeah, he kind of was. Like, he really couldn't talk to people at all. He was like this guy in his 50s who like blends into the background in all the photos. He had no friends. He was just traveling around the country. And then he met Seabiscuit and took him and hid him away and fed him on the best oats and put on 200 pounds. And also, and this is the last thing I'll say, Seabiscuit had a real temper. So they knew he was lonely. That's a sign of loneliness. So first they gave him a little goat, and Seabiscuit hated the goat and picked it up with its teeth and threw it out of the stable. But then they gave Seabiscuit a little yellow pony who he liked, and then they gave him a dog with ears 3 times too big for its head, and then they gave him a spider monkey. And so the 4 of them would all lie down and sleep together with the monkey around Seabiscuit's neck and the dog on his tummy, and then the golden pony just standing up to sleep over them all.
So it's this weird little menagerie, and then that helped him to be an incredible racehorse.
Yes.
Which I love, because I love horse racing.
Yeah, she loves the bloody sport of kings.
Can I? Because I've not seen the film. Did the spider monkey eventually become the jockey, or is that separate? Because that would win me over. Definitely, I'll see the film now if it has a spider monkey jockey.
I think so. Yeah, you should watch it.
I'll give it a go. Yeah, that and these weird films that are coming out of Ireland with all manner of, yeah, that's people must see Extraordinary. By the one of my favourite things in it is there does seem to be, to some extent, a connection to the early work of Chris de Burgh in some of our rock star. I mean, that might just be pure coincidence, accident, etc. But that is a particularly delightful thing. Especially, I met someone once who told me how he shakes hands, and it was really spooky. But I'll tell you that.
Hands? How?
I'll next time we see each other, which might be for months, I will demonstrate the Chris de Burgh shaking hands.
So it's like a secret stroke.
Yeah, the secret stroke. Yeah, that's what an evolutionary biologist who met him told me, that it was a very odd secret stroke hand. So there we are.
Anything more like, ugh.
I mean, it might have been an accident. It might just be one of those things where sometimes you get a kind of a lazy finger during a handshake. I don't know for sure.
Ew, that's the worst part. The idea is just you get lazy finger during it. Ugh, pathetic.
What are you both listening to music-wise and reading other than Seabiscuit? Are there any things that you've enjoyed in the past couple of months that you'd recommend to people?
Yeah, there's a new podcast from a really brilliant Irish DJ. It's called Make Me an Island, and he plays like every night he goes to like a different country, and so he's got a really great South African episode. Anyway, it's called Make Me an Island, and I cannot recommend it enough. He's got like all these old records that he's playing. But it's not like esoteric for the sake of it. It's you find yourself dancing. It's really fun and beautiful. And sometimes he gives like a backstory for what you're hearing.
Is that Donald Deneen?
Yeah, Donald Deneen. Yeah,
I'm on it. I've been really enjoying. I participated in a Eurovision Song Contest thing called the Isolation Song Contest, and we had to we represented North Macedonia, and everyone was representing different countries, and a lot of people's approach was obviously to research their country and then do a song that's like, in this country they like this and we eat this and great. But I was thinking what I wanted to do was to listen to the pop music of that place and try to kind of in a general vibe way emulate that. So I found a site that would play me the top 10s from North Macedonia. So interesting. Wow. And then you can go all around the world listening to the top 10s of the charts, and it is a fascinating experience. And I think Apple Radio do it as well, because for a while I was just going around like different parts of the world, just be like, that's number one there, but it's also number one there. And like, yeah, I think even just that level of exploration is a really fun way to pass time and learn about what people are up to.
And did you spend the whole of that week, because you're quite method when you do any kind of Eurovision Song Contest parody, did you have your Twitter trends set to North Macedonia for the whole of that week as well?
God, I wish I had. It would be more cheering than having them set to London.
That's what you need to do, though, because for the whole of this week, I've been on New Zealand Twitter trends. I don't know what all the reference points are or anything like that, but it's been a far more entertaining and enjoyable week, and I haven't been dragged into a mire of political incompetence on a daily basis.
Well, you must feel quite good about the way that your leadership in New Zealand has handled the crisis.
I'm cock a hoop down here in Auckland, I can tell you now.
We've had very few deaths.
Yeah. Claudia, what have you been listening to? Is there anything you recommend?
I just started listening to, on my friend's recommendation, a podcast about Nexium, that cult.
I've listened to the whole thing.
It's called, the one I'm listening to is called Uncover.
It's
about
season
one.
A man talking to his friend.
Who from childhood. And I was listening to the first episode. I don't love pork, but I was making I was making 6 pork shoulder pies for my grandmother, because I'm allowed to deliver food to her in Australia at this time. And I was like cutting up a pork shoulder, which is something I've never done in my life, as I was listening to the first episode of the Uncover of season 1, Inside Nexium, or whatever it's called. And it's a very graphic description of branding humans and the smell of searing human flesh, and I nearly threw up. But it's a great podcast. So just make sure you're not like preparing any raw meat, specifically pig, while you listen to it.
That's a message for butchers listening to.
Yeah. Butchers, make sure you've come home from work before you listen to Uncover Season 1, Escaping Nexium.
Butchers beware.
We're out of time now, so we should find out. Now, it's great to have to end on butchery advice is something we haven't done in the first 74 episodes. So finally, that's reached. That can always be the cliffhanger until season 2, which begins tomorrow morning at 10:30. With Greg Jenner, by the way, Greg Jenner, who is early work I knew of his is brilliant stuff he did with working with Horrible Histories. He's a historian, and his latest book is Dead Famous, which is all about the kind of the history of celebrity, and we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. Maeve, where can people go and find out what you're kind of if you are creating anything at the moment, in terms of where would you like to recommend people go and find out more about your
I suppose Maeve Higgins on Twitter.
But can I also say you've been writing some really important articles recently in the New York Times?
Thanks, Josie. Yeah, I write for the New York Times and the New York Review of Books. So I think that's why I'm not sure where the best place is. But usually, like, I tweet about them. But you could just Google my name followed by your favorite publication. And thanks so much. It was so nice to see the two of you. Thanks for doing this show. It's really fun.
Thank you so much
for coming along. And Claudia, what about you?
You can find me on the pages of Playboy magazine, and also just go to my Instagram, ding dong, it's Claudia Josie, to stay up to date with what I'm up to and see what's going on. And right now, not much.
That reminds me of that Mark Thomas. You remember one of the things he did with an artist friend of his, where they used to get things like Playboy magazine, and then his friend, she would place small collages around kind of the areas of maximum interest. So there would be kind of almost Dadaist collages, and then they just pop them back into the newsagents. So people would then buy this product and go, "Exit! What on earth is this? This appears to be a woman who has toaster genitalia." Yes, have a look at that. Was.
Claudia, how do you feel about that your body was desecrated in that way? Like,
I don't feel great about it, to be honest, because I put a lot of effort into making sure it looked fantastic on the days of the photo shoots. So to hear it's been covered by some comedians, devastating.
It's terrible to have to end the show this way. It's sad.
It's a pity because it started on such an upbeat piece of butchery advice, which is what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
And we've ended up on something which has become a disappointing Dardarist collage in pornography. The whole thing has been, it's ended oddly.
I want to thank you for marshalling the show with a real clear professionalism, and I'm glad and grateful for you. What are you doing for the rest of the day?
I'm now going to talk to a wonderful man called Christopher Sykes, who, amongst other things, made the documentary about Richard Feynman, The Pleasure of Finding Things Out, and made his career is filled with. There's a brilliant documentary series he did called 7 Wonders of the World, where each week a scientist would talk about their wonders of the world. And I highly recommend, if you've never seen it, Miriam Rothschild, who was an expert on fleas and flukes and things like that. It's a really beautiful documentary where she talks about how she found out about the jumps of fleas and trying to film the jumps of fleas, which are actually too fast for the speed of a freight. It's just a lovely thing of seeing someone with a collection of rabbits, which she combs to get the fleas off and then looks at, it's wonderful. So I'm going to talk to him. That's my main thing. And
That's really cool. I'm going to be trying to do some writing again for the second day in a row. Yesterday, I actually managed to write something new, even though it was like 300 words. And I was like, we're back in town, baby. So
that's great.
Oh my God. It's hard.
Thank you so much, everyone. And don't forget the FGs there on Bandcamp. Tip jar at the bottom of this. Go to our Patreon page if you get a chance, if you can't bother with the tip jar. But if you can't bother with the tip jar, you probably definitely can't bother to go to our Patreon page. But cosmicshambles.com, that's got all of our other stuff as well that we make as anyway, whether there's lockdown or not. So hundreds of interviews and short films and stuff about maths, science, literature, art, and all of that. See you tomorrow, 10:30 with Greg Jenner. Bye.
See you tomorrow. Have fun.